Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's the big one. It's Bodo at home, first leg of the Europa League semi-final. Hopefully the Champions League comes next season. We're here with Aaron, first interview of the evening. Aaron, how are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm good, excited. Been feeling sick since about 8 o'clock this morning, but other than that, yeah, I'm up for it.
Sick because of nerves or sick because of health?
Nerves and a bit of anticipation, I think.
Aaron, let me ask you some questions, mate. First and foremost, just focus on the game at hand here. How important is this one for everything at Tottenham Hotspur? The owner, the manager, the players, the fans. Is this the chance for us to... It feels a little bit divided at the moment within the fan base around what's going on at Tottenham. How important is tonight's result?
I think for the fans and the players it's massive. I think for the board, all they care about is the cash. I think Ange, I don't think he survives the season regardless if we win, if I'm perfectly honest.
Let's pivot straight away then. We'll come back to the game specifically on Ange. Since you bring him up, I wasn't going to. No, I mean, of course I was. A lot of the noise, a lot of the press conferences of late, it feels a little bit to me like it's a bit of an us versus them mentality. He's trying to kind of invoke some sort of notion that everyone's against us. Yeah. But a lot of the fans are too. Yeah. Against him at least. What's your overarching take on Ange Postecoglou's time at Tottenham?
I'm a season ticket holder. So I've done every home game for the last couple of seasons, and the key bit for me is not being able to adapt and playing the whole woe is me. I get we've had injuries, but you can't play a high line. When we played last season against Chelsea with Højbjerg and Emerson Royal at centre half and not expect to concede. Lack of adaptability, that's the bit that's killed me, along with the hope. Was it something as an experiment to pivot away from what we'd seen prior with Conte and Jose and previous managers where they felt like here now, win now managers that didn't manage to do it, the pivot towards something with a philosophy of getting back to the Tottenham way? Was he the right appointment? Obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, we might think no, but at the time, how did you feel about him? When he first got announced, I didn't have a clue who he was, and obviously you look him up and he's done a bit of Celtic and in the Australian League. I get what the club are trying to do in terms of breaking the status quo, but I think we've done it in a very Spursy way of finding someone who's won a bit, isn't going to cost us a massive amount of money, wants to do it with kids, rather than get someone in who's a serial winner like we tried to do with Conte and Mourinho. The difference was I don't think we had the right backing in the right places.
Would you say we backed Ange though?
I would say we backed Ange, but I'd also say we backed him in a way that isn't going to necessarily push us towards being in the top 4 or 6 again. If you look at the players we signed, like Sarr's been unbelievable. We signed him obviously before Postecoglou. Berghvall's coming and done great. Archie Gray's coming and done great. These are all players that are going to have resale value, and I think that's what the club are looking at. We spent £60 million on Solanke, and half his goals last season for Bournemouth were consolation goals. Right. We didn't go out and buy a 25, 20 goal a season striker. We went out and bought someone. He got 15 or 16 or whatever it was last season for Bournemouth in a mediocre team. And I think that sort of sets our agenda. We spend money, but we invest, which is a clever thing for the club. But as a fan, you just want to win something.
But bearing in mind that we're going to be here as fans in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Is there a notion then that Ange was always going to be, I've said this on the channel quite a lot, so pardon, excuse me guys, but like the guy before the guy, the fact that the club pivoted towards this youth-centric model.
The lost leader.
That he was, exactly, the lost leader. He was always going to be the guy that started the ball. Rome wasn't built in a day. We've gone back towards a good philosophy, but he inherited a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds. The next guy, or maybe if that's a failure, the guy after that, hopefully some of these young players are going to develop, especially when you look at the youth system. Some of these kids are going to develop into top players, and that maybe we're not too far away in the future from having some ever-present, permanent fixtures in the first team, that we don't have to keep going and spending £50 million on failed attempts like in the Ndombele scenario and Lo Celso and Sanchez, etc.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he is the guy before the guy, but it's for me it still comes down to a lack of desire from the club. You talk about the youth team and what we've done at under 18s, under 21 level. Like people like Donnelly, Lancashire got most goals in the PL2, I think, last season or season before. Mm-hmm. He got a couple of goals for us. Obviously, he scored in the European Cup competition this year, but he's not getting a sniff it. When Solanke was injured, obviously we went and wet to hell. If he had gone and said, right, let's put Lancashire up front and just give him 6, 7, 8 games in top flight football, you say, okay, I can see what he's trying to do. But he's gone and got someone who isn't going to necessarily be here for the long term and completely undermining the whole let's let's back the youth system.
Right, so Matisse Tell then, there's a pivot, let's take that and run with it. Players like Matisse Tell, options to sign him for £50 million. For me, starting to show a little bit more than he had in the initial stages. But there's this notion around the community online, at least, that it's a bit of a cock block on players like Mikey Moore, players that 100%. Are coming through.
Yeah, no, I can see that, but then as Spurs fans would also be moaning if we didn't go and try and get a player like that. If we didn't go and try and sign Sarr when he went to Man United, every Spurs fan would be going, oh, why don't we go and get him? If he went and scored 5, 6, 7 goals for Man United, we'd all be sitting here crying, saying, why have we not gone and convinced him to join? So 100%. It's a catch-22. I guess I don't know what the answer is. I think time's going to tell. If we don't win the competition, the season's been a write-off, and last season doesn't make for much. But in terms of the Ange thing, I like him. I think he's okay. I just want to get out of the whole woe is me and feel sorry for me vibe.
On that note, so I've been saying all week on the channel here, by the way guys, smash the like and subscribe if you enjoy these interviews. I've been saying all week that there's an indelible line in the sand here. It's black and white for Ange.
Yeah.
You know, win the cup, win tonight, go to Bodo, do the job, go to Bilbao, whoever we've got to beat there. If we get it done, he becomes the most successful manager in Tottenham's recent history. 2 generations of fans haven't seen this.
Yeah.
Right? Lose the cup or lose tonight, screw it up.
Yeah.
He becomes the biggest failure, the biggest flop. Yeah. We haven't finished in a league position as low as this ever in the Premier League history, right?
Yeah.
So the stakes couldn't be higher. Win, you're a legend. Lose, you're the biggest flop ever. It sounds to me like you're leaning towards. You're saying that you're fed up with his kind of his energy at the moment. Does that change though? In a world where the owner, and we're going to come to him for the final segment in a second, but sure. In a world where we do win the cup, a lot of Tottenham fans are saying sack him anyway. Thanks next, right? Thank you next, because it's just the league thing is unforgivable.
Yeah.
But in a world where we do win the cup, get the money to rebuild, get into the Champions League, is there an element, an idea in your mind that you just don't know what that level of success will change his character? Will he come back to the cocky, kind of confident, nice, funny guy that he was at the start? Will the players, 19-year-olds, Lucas Berghvall, having a winner's medal around their neck, will that create wind in the sails of the players that could create a new energy that we haven't seen yet?
Again, it's the hope that kills you. You hope that if that happened, that's exactly what we'd want to happen. The key bit's going to be, do we win? That's ultimately the main question. If we don't win, we're back to square one. If we win, you might have something to build on. Do we keep him? I don't know.
Do you want to?
Do we want to keep him? Or do you want to?
If you had the choice right now, lose the trophy and he goes, win the trophy but he stays for the next couple of years, would you keep him?
No, yeah, win every time.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. We're not. We as Spurs fans are not in a position to pick and choose what we win. I'd win the Europa Conference League if I had to. I'm 31. I've been following Spurs since I've been born.
And 1 or 2 trophies in your lifetime, that's basically
well,
it.
just the one.
Just the one.
I was at the Portsmouth Cup final and Chelsea obviously won the Chelsea one. So
yeah.
I've only seen this as one trophy and just desperate for success. Desperate for it.
Last question for you, mate. The awkward one. Ownership.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Change for Spurs. Big movement over the last couple of months. It's starting to get numbers, a bit of wind behind it. Is that a kind of temporary thing based on, does all that go away if we win the cup? And how do you feel about the ownership overall?
It's peaks and troughs, isn't it? It depends on the mood. How do I think about the ownership of the club? I think as a businessman, Levy's done exceptional. He's turned us into one of the most profitable clubs in the world. We make money with turnover. Everything he does with the whole NFL, the Formula One, you can't fault it. He is a businessman down to his core. And for where he's taken us from the old White Hart Lane to the new stadium and being one of the best stadiums in the world, yes, he didn't build it with his own bare hands, but he set up the infrastructure around it to make it successful. The key bit's now going to be, he needs to surround himself with someone who's got the understanding of the football, who understands how a club works and knows how to win success. We need someone in who's ruthless. I'm not saying Levy's not. He's notorious for being a tough negotiator. But getting a hard bargain to transfer isn't the same as running a club and making them win 2, 3, 4 titles over a 5-6 year period. So I don't mind Levy as a person. I've never met the fella. It's only for what you see online, his persona, and obviously that's all very filtered, what you see. What he's done for the club can't go unnoticed. He needs to surround himself with the right people and take a step back from football operations, in my opinion.
Does he have the ego to actually see that happen? A lot of people think the biggest problem with him, even the staunchest Levy outers, will acknowledge he's good at the A, B's and C's, but not good at the final product when it comes to the football stuff. And they would argue that his biggest weakness is his ego. He can't let go of the reins. Even though he says he wants to, he can't do it. Do you think he can?
Again, I don't know him, so
I love the honest answers.
It's up to the board ultimately. Like, he's on a decent pay packet. Would you give up 3-4 million quid a year? Probably not. You'd fight tooth and nail to keep it. So it's, who knows?
Would you take a new owner, and if so, what shape and structure does that look like? I want
someone who cares about the football. The club is now at a place where it's at, and the business is all great. You don't often see Premier League teams go under, so there's no risk of us going bankrupt. But let's just invest in the right players and the right times, and just try and invest in a squad that actually wants to win. Let's go and buy someone who's got 2-3 years experience at Champions League level, who's 25, 26. But then the caveat is we're not good enough to attract those sort of players unless you're paying mega money.
It's hard.
Everyone talks about,
and that's Daniel Levy's job, right? He has to break that barrier.
And you talk about, there's a lot of talk online around the wage structure and how much we pay players in comparison to revenue and turnover. It's all a bit of a gimmick, really. Paying players top money doesn't necessarily attract them. It's more around what they're going to get. 250 grand to 200 grand to a player. It sounds a lot. They're millionaires already.
It's irrelevant.
It's all goes on. Half it goes on tax anyway.
But if Tottenham are willing to do it, probably so are Villa, Newcastle, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and City.
And that's the difference. That's the difference, isn't it? You know, as much as we don't like talking about Arsenal, they went and spent £100 million on Rice, and he's been outstanding for them. We compromised and spent, and I know Berghvall's come through very good, but we spent 15 million euros on Berghvall, who luckily turned out very well.
We also spent a lot of money on terrible players.
We spent £25 million on Bissouma. Last season he was decent. This season he started okay and then completely tailed off.
£30 million on Brian Hill, right? I mean, the forgotten.
The list goes on.
He's still a Tottenham player, by the way.
The Bale money, it absolutely speaks volume that we sold one of our, in my generation, probably apart from Harry Kane, one of the best players I'll ever see play football. And we invested it in 9 mediocre players in the hope that one of them would recruit some value.
Correct.
That sums the whole, in my opinion, that sums the whole thing up. It's an investment.
Quantity over quality sort of thing, right?
They're playing for the money. And I get it. But
it's interesting because it sounds...
I want someone who's passionate about the club. I want someone who's passionate.
As owner?
As an owner, yeah. Bring back Alan Sugar.
Wow.
If he was interested, because he would put his money where his mouth is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
he hasn't got enough money for this club now.
And again, credit to Daniel Levy for getting it to where it is around the infrastructure and how much money we make, etc. That's all brilliant. But ultimately, you don't just want to be a club who makes a load of money, because the fan base is loyal. I mean, the streets are already packed, and we're 2.5 hours from kick-off.
Yeah. There's a difference between participating and competing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're not there to get a runners-up medal or to say, we tried really hard. What shame came 6th. It would demotivate people.
I hear you, mate.
That's where we're at.
Aaron, absolute fabulous interview, mate. Is it your first time on camera?
Yeah.
You've done a great job, mate. Thank you very much. There you go, guys. That's Aaron's thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on his thoughts. Like, subscribe, and comment. As always, come at your Spurs.